This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Two here of Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app, any of our great affiliates, wherever you're watching or listening today. We appreciate it. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We'll have some best bets at the end of the hour. We're going to break down what is a 12-game NBA slate here in a moment. We've also got Why Not Wednesday. Did want to real quickly thank Dave Fleming for joining us in the last segment, breaking down the World Series. He'll be on the MLB International feed, so everywhere outside of the U.S. and Canada that have their home broadcasts. His call will be everywhere else in the world, which is pretty cool. And he was giving us a couple names outside of the stars for World Series MVP because he was right? Like everyone knows Shohei Ohtani, everyone knows Freddie Freeman, everyone knows Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but giving us a couple other names that could be intriguing if you look farther down the board. Dalton Varsho for Toronto, a name he mentioned, 30-1. Max Muncy, 35-1 if you're looking for somebody to have a nice performance.
Yeah, I think Muncy's probably like the long shot that's worth taking on the board overall. Again, just getting a lefty against a rotation that is just dominated with right-handers, so the matchup in general works for him. Obviously, Ohtani with I think we described it the other day as like that kind of get-out-of-jail-free card with the ability to start and, of course, be in the lineup every single day. It's going to be kind of hard to overcome that. Now, it's not like in the NBA. So in the association, as you're kind of noting here, right, you can look a little bit further down the board. If this was the NBA, you're betting Ohtani instead of laying that price to the Dodgers because if they're going to win, then Ohtani's going to win, kind of a deal. But there's a space in which guys like Muncy and others can come in for a few games, have some pretty big performances. But I will say, I mean, it might be worth looking at Ohtani a little bit later in the series if you get to that point. I mean, the way that he won NLCS MVP with just doing nothing for 3 games and then coming in game 4 and being like, nope, I got it.
So that's what I was going to say. I was like, I feel like he is very fairly priced in the sense that he's so much shorter than everyone else just because all he needs is one great game, it seems like, especially if he's going to pitch in the series.
But it would probably, because he's not going to start the series, right, in terms of the rotation.
No, it's Blake Snell on
it's Blake
Friday.
Snell. Like, so they're back to the beginning of the rotation. So you're not going to get him at the start. You're not going to get him until later because I would assume it's going to be Snell, Yamamoto, and then Glasnow, and then Ohtani. So to the point, it's almost like the balance kind of helps you out here. Just like in that series of the Brewers, there were so many different contributors throughout the course of the first 3 games. There was no real runaway favorite. And so by the time you get to Ohtani's start, unless he's having just a dominant series at the plate, then all of a sudden you can make the argument of, all right, cool, now that we're somewhat adjusted, probably getting over 2-1 because you have all these contributors, now's the time to bet Ohtani once again. Especially,
that's a good angle. I like it.
You know what I mean? Just to see if they're going to happen. Because once he gets that start in, and let's just say he performs like at an average level at the plate, maybe hits a home run, drives in some runs or whatever, but everybody else is doing what they need to do, and going into that 4th start, like that's going to be one where it might be worth looking at.
I still just think it's crazy with Ohtani that he was having this drought and it was a pretty lackluster postseason altogether. And then, real quick, let me just put up the greatest performance we have ever seen in a postseason game ever.
He's the best baseball player we've ever seen. There's no questioning this anymore. I don't need the that whatever. I don't want to denigrate the memory of Babe Ruth and whatnot, but he is the best baseball player we've ever seen.
Game 1, as we mentioned, though, with Blake Snell on the hill, the Dodgers -157 road favorites in Toronto to kick this thing off. The Blue Jays, as we mentioned with Dave, have not announced their starter yet, +129, that option for them. Run total 7.5. In terms of the series odds, the Dodgers around -215, Toronto a +180 price. That said, I know you're very excited. The NBA is underway officially as of yesterday.
Champions League. Chelsea just got off. They're on the pitch right now.
Well, I said as soon as we walked in, we have a giant, historically large television full of green pitch behind us today on the Circa Sportsbook screen.
I will say 2 things.
It's your day all over.
I'm not confident enough to bet on soccer regularly yet. Let's just throw out there. Liverpool game over 3.5 was a thought. And then betting, I believe it's called Ajax on the 3-way line. Chelsea's like a $3.60 favorite on the 3-way line. I felt like that was a little much for a team that constantly gets red cards and performs, I would say, plays to the level of competition.
Well, let's go to your second favorite sport then, in basketball.
Badminton. Oh, okay.
And before we get to the 12-game slate, you pointed this out.
Boy.
The commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, had a lot to say about the NBA from a betting perspective yesterday and some of the changes they are trying to invoke and the rationale behind it. Take a listen.
I think probably there should be more regulation, frankly. It may be surprising to hear from me. I wish there was federal legislation rather than state by state. I think you got to monitor the amount of promotion, the amount of advertising around it. And also, we've pulled back. It's not completely in our control, but we've asked some of our partners to pull back some of the prop bets, especially when they're on two-way players, guys who don't have the same stake in the competition, where, it's too easy to manipulate something which seems otherwise small and inconsequential to the overall score.
Yeah, I would disagree with this because there's a couple of things. We've hit on this topic quite a bit. It continues to come up time and time again. What drives you nuts, I think, about something like this is, again, pointing to bad actors in the space of sports betting as a reason as to change these things. As I sarcastically retweeted this clip from, and by the way, it's the Pat McAfee Show, for those who are listening, give credit to the interview here. Are we going to talk to our arenas about distributing alcohol less? That's 100% one of the reasons. I don't know. I'm sure you maybe know some people. Stormy, I know a couple of people who get pretty angry when they drink, and it doesn't have a great effect on them. And that happens in arenas all of the time. And yet we don't have these conversations about limiting when we're going to do these alcohol sales or how many each person can have, all sorts of things. But when these bad actors, in terms of sports gambling, are acting badly and giving these guys crap over these parlays that they're putting in or whatever it is, it's immediately we have to go to this. We have to change things up. What also drives me nuts is you hear this a lot of, we've got to really cut down on the advertising, right? We need federal regulation because it's state by state at this point right now. David Purdom had a great piece. This was like a year ago or so. If you look at some of the numbers in terms of the advertising for sports betting, it's been cut down immensely over the last few years. If you're talking about the total national spend on television commercials in 2024, sportsbooks accounted for 0.8% of that. Alcohol advertising accounted for 1.4% of that. We've seen it get cut down already. The American Gaming Association does have these restrictions that they put on with the sportsbooks and operators that are part of the AGA that do say that if you look at it, ads should also be placed in, quote, broadcast, cable, radio, print, or digital communications where at least 73.6% of the audience aligned with 2020 census data is reasonably expected to be of legal age. Like, there's things out there that we've already kind of seen put in place. I'd also say that, like, these things of federal regulation and all these sort of it's not going to change the fact that a dude gets drunk and starts yelling at somebody. And I just keep going back to, why is it? Is it because it's the latest vice that we continue to hear these things of, this is the reason why we need to cut down on the props that are allowed, we need to change the way we operate here, when in reality, it's just a bunch of bad actors who are more than likely under the influence of alcohol acting the way that they are? That to me is, and by the way, this isn't an anti-alcohol thing. Mm-hmm. I love drinking. Like, I will say that outright. Like, I get drunk. Oh, like, I shouldn't say a lot. Whoa. But like, I get drunk. Like, I get drunk with frequency, we'll say. We've hung out. You've seen it. Like, I enjoy a good time. I enjoy a bubbly or two. This isn't that. It's just this whole finger pointing about sports gambling being the issue, when the reality is there's so many factors at play, I think is ridiculous, but it constantly keeps getting brought up.
Well, and I think that there is still, even though, as Silver mentioned earlier in the interview, there is such widespread legalization, and this is something that is commonplace and was approved by the majority of the states in the United States, yet there's still this old school taboo view of it that from whether it's a vocal minority or it's the majority, but obviously it's not the majority, otherwise it wouldn't have gotten legalized. So here's my thing, is like, it's always, it feels like a group of people that think that this is taboo, that think that this is bad, and try to kind of force their thought process and agenda on other people. And then it's an unenviable position to be a commissioner of a league in this position, where you're constantly asked about it. Like, we don't know what Adam Silver's actual feelings or thoughts are on him.
Yes, we do. You don't remember? He wrote the op-ed right before PASPA got struck down that it needed to be struck down. That was him who wrote that.
So he's like Euphoria. Yeah. He's like Euphoria then.
It's so ridiculous.
I didn't remember that about him back then.
It's ridiculous to hear him say this. And like, I just keep going back to, there's so many bad actors at play. There's so many different issues around things that happen like this. And I keep going back to, every time this topic kind of comes up, I go back to the ridiculous piece that I wrote. I think it was from MSNBC when Jonte Porter got caught. And like, the last line was something along the lines of like, Jonte Porter was thrust into a world he wasn't ready for because there were so many things with sport. Like, no, what are we doing? Why are we putting the onus of these bad actors and these lesser people? Why are we putting that on the sport, or excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for here? Whatever, like sports betting. Why are we putting that on sports betting as opposed to maybe fixing the problem with the people that are acting the way that they are?
The Jonte Porter thing has always been mind-boggling to me because I don't know why we're blaming sports betting for exactly what you're saying, a bad actor, a bad apple in this situation, right? And in any walk of life, I've said this to you before, in any walk of life, in any industry, in any job, in any like family, right? There's the black sheep, there's a bad apple, there's somebody who is the one that wants to go against the rules and do something wrong or try to get an edge or make a buck quick. There's always going to be somebody like that. That's not the majority of people, though.
Right. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, so I don't know. The Jonte Porter thing has always killed me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's ridiculous to put it on them. And like, I would venture a guess and to say, especially because here's the other thing. I mean, this opens a whole other can of worms. But I'm going to assume that if you get these props cut down, it ignores the fact that there's these little things that are popping up called prediction markets that are like a completely other different thing that people are getting involved in that won't change the fact that you're going to get some of these dweebs who are betting beyond their means. And putting themselves in position to then take it out on the athlete that they're wagering their money on.
And I do understand, like,
it's not wagering.
But no, and they have eliminated, some of those role players who don't do a lot. They've eliminated their prop predictions and all of that stuff. Like, I understand that, but it's that there's still going to be fantasy basketball. There's still going to be all of these other little.
No, I think you're wrong. I don't think a fan has ever said a mean thing to an athlete before Pascal got struck down.
Or just because they don't like them. It's like fans at games have never just screamed at the opposing team star before. That's never happened.
Not before 2017.
You know what? We're going to scream from the mountaintops happy things like congratulations to Anjan Shah, the Average Joe winner this week. Each week, you can enter a contest by making 7 picks, NFL or college. The top scorer takes home $500. Win with an Edge Boost account. That payout doubles to $1,000. Plus, every quarter, one winner scores airfare for 2 to Las Vegas and more. VSiN.com/Joe is how you can be a part of it.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
First Bet is the official racing partner of VSiN, and they're thrilled to bring an exclusive offer to bet the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Use promo code VSINBC, that's VSINBC, and you'll be entered to win an all-expenses-paid trip out here to Vegas when you deposit and bet $200. Plus, when you deposit and bet just $100, you'll get a 1-year VSiN Pro subscription for access to all of our exclusive content, picks, and more. Bet Breeders' Cup with First Bet, the official racing partner of VSiN. Again, promo code VSINBC. I went to the race.
Maybe a stupid one, but I'm just spitballing here.
Can it make you say why not?
That wasn't a stupid question.
It's time for Why Not Wednesday.
I mean, why not?
You know when they say it's so crazy it just might work?
So we're gonna.
That's hilarious. A little clerical work on the side. We're not doing Why Not Wednesday today, guys. We can turn down the music.
But I do like the enthusiasm that we're going to have for this segment. And we talked so long about the betting stuff with Adam Silver last segment that we didn't get to our full NBA breakdown. Sure. So we shifted gears here a little bit. But can you say why not do a little NBA talk? Let's do it. We've got 12 games coming up on deck today. And there actually is a why not that I'm going to throw into one of these games as we go through it.
Is it the pizza one?
I think it's important.
Save it for the end.
I think it's important. Yeah. So let's start from your perspective, though. What is like the game of the day for you?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because I have, Derek Stevens and I have bonded on Sunday mornings, as you know, because we like some of these weird off the radar games. Like we have a kind of sick interest in a lot of them. This last week, it was Cleveland and Miami that we were really interested in watching. I think a lot of people were. Saints, Giants. So for me, it kind of trends in that direction for a few of these games. It's hard not to go to, and again, I don't do this to curry favor, but our Charlotte Hornets, I guess we'll call them.
Let's go.
Look, I think
out to 5.5 now.
Yeah, and I think that this Hornets team is going to be better. And I guess I'm somewhat surprised that there seems to be an echoing of my sentiment here amongst a lot of sharp people that, hey, look, Charlotte can be better than what they thought. Not only do you talk to people, the market reflects that. We talked about the win total. Win total went from like 24.5, 25.5 up to 28.5 in some spots. So there is a growing belief that Charlotte can be a little bit better this season. You mentioned the line move today, open 4, it's up to 5.5 in multiple spots. So I'm really interested to see this team on paper. Brandon Miller, I think, is going to be a comeback player, a most improved player candidate. So that's going to be pretty good. I think that there's just a really strong intrigue, and it's one of 3 early window games that probably has a little bit more intrigue outside of Cleveland, New York, which has a bunch of injury issues.
Okay.
But I think to me, this is, I'll be home, I'll be sat, I'll be ready to go, and this is going to be the game with sound on for me in the early window.
Please, Charlotte, give us confirmation bias.
Yeah, sure.
give us that thing that makes us feel good about the season win total, makes us think that all of the things that we've been discussing this offseason are real. Do it against the Brooklyn Nets right off the top. Let's go. Now,
I will say today, because, you're not, I think, keeping track of the intricacies of what's going on, it is a 100% NBA day. And what I mean by that is, for those who had missed it, Karl Anthony Towns had been questionable. He got downgraded to doubtful to play the game. About 20 minutes ago, he was upgraded to questionable again. So a little snip, snap with Karl Anthony Towns. Still questionable, so we don't know if he's going to play. The Bucks put up their injury report. The Twitter account says, everybody's active. There's nobody on the injury report. A couple hours later, Giannis Antetokounmpo is now probable to play today. So he's been added to the injury report. Now, again, he's listed as probable, but I would tell you...
he specifically has been one of those guys that,
yes.
Probable actually means doubtful. Questionable means he's playing. His injury report's been terrible.
You stole it right from the recesses of my mind. Do you know how many times I have sat on a Bucks game with Giannis listed as probable and he doesn't play? You know how many times I've sat on a doubtful and Giannis ends up going? There's so many games that this team has played with Giannis status. So who knows what it means?
Why are they so bad about it with him specifically?
I don't know. It's the question that we can ask about almost every team with these injuries. So keep an eye out for that. Giannis it's technically a downgrade. He's still listed as probable, but he was not on the injury report, and he has technically been downgraded to doubtful here for this game. So the 2 games we're talking about, Cleveland 1.5-point favorite now on the road, the total of 228.5, given everything that we've seen. And then Milwaukee right now laying 9.5, 10 still. So market still believes that he's going to play, and it seems the market is solidly believes right now that Karl Anthony Towns will not be available, as well as we know, Josh Hart not going to play for them. Mitchell Robinson not going to play for them either. With
Cavs Knicks, though, you mentioned the 1.5-point spread. This is, I think, a fun one to kick off the season in general, right? 2 teams that people really think can be contenders.
I think the problem is, from a betting standpoint, first off, as I always like to say, 228.5 is not like the biggest total in the world. It's still a 2.5. It's still 228.5 with a spread of 1.5. You're going to be able to get a better number at any point in this game for either one of the teams that you like. So just trade it in game. But remember too, Darius Garland's out. Max Strus is out for Cleveland. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. So you even have your own injury concerns on the Cleveland side, where it's going to be a big Donovan Mitchell game. One of the things that I was kind of looking at, and I didn't play this, but I'm going to be curious to see what Lonzo Ball's role is going to be here for Cleveland with Darius Garland hurt and with him now kind of healthy and the Cavaliers using him. The upside of what Lonzo Ball is incredible. We saw him at the peak of his career. It was great. It's actually one of the worst stories in the NBA, the fact that injuries really derailed him over the course of the last few years. But with so many injuries in the backcourt for Cleveland, you can paint a picture of Lonzo Ball coming in, if there's no minutes restriction to an extent, and having a pretty big game. Point total, if I remember correctly, was at 7.5 for Lonzo. 1.5 shaded to the over at -160 or so for 3-pointers made. I kind of wanted to look at Lonzo to have a big game, but the question of whether or not he's going to be on some sort of restriction because he's still working his way back from the serious injury sit on the sidelines for it, if you will.
How about 76ers Celtics? We talked yesterday about how Joel Embiid will be available for the opener. No Paul George, though, still. Spread 4.5 here with the C's favored at home, total 229.5.
Yeah, I was texting Kelly about this. This is one of those where the market responded to news that I thought we assumed. And what I mean by that is, Jaylen Brown hurts his hamstring near the end of the preseason, but on Monday practices in full. That's generally a pretty good indicator that he's going to be available. And then today, I believe he was over there at shoot around. And so when that comes down, then all of a sudden we're talking about this getting up to 4.5, and one shop is showing 5 right now. Well, I thought at 2.5, this indicated that Brown was more than likely going to go. And then should he have played, then maybe you close at 3.5. So I got the worst of the number here from a money line standpoint, but I played Philly. You mentioned it. Joel Embiid's not on the injury report, so I assume he's a full go. And I like Philadelphia, and I think I like them better than I do Boston in terms of how they are currently constructed. And from the Embiid standpoint, look, I mean, who are you throwing at him, right? It's either going to be Chris Boucher, who's given up like 1,000 pounds to him, or Nemanja Keita, or whoever it is at center that the Celtics have. There's no real matchup option they have for him. Al Horford's gone. Porzingis is gone, obviously. So I think it's a pretty big Embiid game if he's going to be out there. And I think 4.5 is just a little too much. I don't know if Boston rates better with Jaylen Brown than Philadelphia is currently constructed if Embiid's going to be out there.
Okay. Miami and Orlando. And so this was actually one of my why nots that I kind of want to weave into this. The Heat are an 8.5-point dog taking on the Magic, but I had Miami to make the playoffs as something. Could you say why not two? I know it's life after Jimmy Butler, but there was so much drama with him at back end of, like, could that negative cloud being alleviated actually be a positive? At the end of the day, you still have Spoelstra, full season of Andrew Wiggins, bring in Norman Powell. Tyler Hero shouldn't be out for too much longer, a couple weeks it looks like. But if Boston, as we're talking about, should be taking a step back, we think Indiana with their injury stuff could be taking a step back. Are there 8 teams that are better than them in the Eastern Conference for sure?
That's the question, right? I mean, so in terms of 6, I think you can, so for remember those who don't remember, 6 being that you lock in a playoff spot, you don't have to get into the play-in. I think you can make the case
they're
that
probably a play-in team.
Yeah, there's 6 teams that are better than Miami in that instance.
But they've been in the play in the last 3 years too, and they've made the playoff field.
And Spoelstra's a good coach and all this. I mean, I guess your doubt would be, or I would say, they themselves are also dealing with a ton of injuries to start the year. We know that Tyler Hero is out and injured as well. So, like, maybe you look at this team, if they get off to a slow start, to then buy a little bit more on them. Or, there's markets like to participate in the play-in.
Right.
Things
Minus
like that.
105 for that.
Yeah.
Would that be the better bet?
Yeah, if you want to play something like that as opposed to betting them to make the playoffs, because then you're in a situation where, okay, just make the tournament and then we're good. But to your point, I mean, they should be a play-in team in a bad Eastern Conference. If you look around at these teams, I would find it hard to believe, like, the wild card would be a team like a Charlotte. Is Charlotte actually so good? Because I think the ceiling is like 31-ish wins. Mm-hmm. Maybe that could get you into the play-in. But either way, would a team like Charlotte or maybe even Toronto rise up and be able to push Miami out of the top 10? I think that's kind of the question. I think Zach and Kelly would tell you Toronto could potentially be that team. And I would tell you the upside of Charlotte is potentially that team as well. I think that's the worry you run into. And then, of course, even if you make the plan, depending on where you finish, you got to win 1 or 2 games to actually make it in.
But then in turn, to your point, those other teams like Charlotte, you would get more bang for your buck for that prop at this point anyways.
And, I mean, hell, dude, I kind of think the Pacers aren't going to be that bad. So that's the other part, too, is, there's a team like the Pacers lurking where they're well coached. They still have the core of guys that brought them to the finals outside of Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. That's a group of dudes that could still win a few games in the NBA and get you to a play-in scenario.
Okay, and my other NBA Why Not Wednesday was, while LeBron might not have been on the court yesterday, he was posting to his social media him eating pizza with a fork and a knife.
I don't know. I'm kind of with him a little bit because it was a very arugula-heavy pizza that you sent over.
Sure.
It wasn't like a traditional pizza.
So, in Italy, they do eat their pizza with a fork and a knife, so that's very
How do you know that, Stormy?
authentic of him. Been to Italy.
Ah, there you go. Forgot about that. Look at the pizza.
But when I was there, I got to tell you, it physically pained me to do that. It's a lot of work. It's not an easy gig to eat it with. It's not. I'm just telling the truth. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before the line moves, the sharp plays is already there. They don't just follow the market, they help move it. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sports books or full-time sharps on your own, but with the sharp plays, you don't have to. Powered by advanced AI and plugged into trusted insider sources, the Sharp Plays delivers the edge serious bettors use each and every day. They've got free betting reports, real-time alerts, and market-moving insights sent straight to your inbox or X feed. Since 2011, the Sharp Plays has been delivering documented results, public logs, and transparent receipts. SharpPlays.com, trusted by the pros, watched by the books. Visit SharpPlays.com today and stay ahead of the line. What you about?
Just watch a little Champions League. So Chelsea, this is, I mentioned Chelsea might be a little heavy on the three-way line. Well, they're probably going to get this done only because Ajax got called for a red card. So immediately after the red card, down a man, Chelsea is up 2-0 in that game in Champions League play. And then we are watching this Liverpool matchup. Liverpool currently trails 1-0. This is the one where I thought the lean was over the 3.5. We were just chatting with Luke DeVosta, producer of Follow the Money, about this. So just watch a little Champions League in the 31st minute, as I know you were tracking over there as well.
Of course. How'd you guess? I was actually pulling up the college football slate of games that we have coming up this weekend. And of course, like we always do as we go through the week, we're going to hit on those marquee games and deep dive into them. But we like on Wednesdays to dive into a little bit of the West Coast action and some of the under the radar games that maybe our brethren cross country might not get into as much. But guess what? Tickets all cash the same. And there are a couple intriguing games. This week's slate, though, in general, I would say across college football, it's not as sexy of a slate as we've had recently. And the same, I think, translates to our West Coast options here. But West Coast bias, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And we were talking in the break about one game in particular, that what's going on behind the scenes at Colorado State is something that has been intriguing for you this week.
Yeah, I mean, so it's absolute chaos, first off. But Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, following, it's been a week now that Jay Norvell's been fired. This is going to be their first game. They get fired on for the Sunday. Either way, Jay Norvell, head coach of Colorado State, gets fired. Now Braden Fowler, Nicolosi reportedly has left the program, their former starting quarterback. It just seems like absolute chaos over there for Colorado State, given where we're at. So who knows how this team's going to operate as you move forward. Again, I wonder, is it thinking too much where you get a program like Penn State, where I would assume a lot of the guys on that roster have better spots to land, if you know what I'm saying? If I was good enough to go to Penn State and make the roster, chances are that even if I transfer out and go to a lesser conference, I'm probably going to be a high-end guy going there or being able to compete for a job. Where at Colorado State, I don't think you're exactly tapping out and just going whatever, I'll go somewhere else. You're probably still giving full effort, trying to get stuff on film so you can transfer out and go somewhere else. So I don't know if there's going to be a complete fall apart here, but it does seem like this program is definitely in flux with guys leaving the roster, head coach fired. What do you do then when you now have to go play up in Wyoming against the Cowboys, who I think you and I both share a somewhat, mild disdain for with the way that program operates?
Yeah, not a huge fan of the Wyoming Cowboys this year, and particularly the decision making, I guess, that goes from a coaching standpoint. This line has moved around a bit, and so Wyoming opened a 3.5-point favorite. We saw this peak at 6 a couple days ago, and we've gotten a little bit of that buyback from Colorado State. This was a game I stayed off of in general, but I do think it's warranted what you're talking about with kind of what's going on since the Norvell firing out there at CSU. One game that did intrigue me a little bit, and I do wonder if I know you're not a Cal believer. And
no, that's not fair. And that's not fair.
I think it's fair to say.
I don't think that's fair at all. I think that the market's just gotten a little high on our boys over there.
Well, what do you think about this week, where we're seeing here at Circa as high as 6 being the point spread in favor of a 2-win Virginia Tech team?
Yeah. See, now this is where I think you kind of come back.
This could be the spot.
Yeah. I mean, so for you to levy such an accusation against me, I apologize that I want to lay 10 and a half, 9 with Cal against teams like North Carolina.
Which they almost lost that game. They should have lost the game.
So that's where,
good for my season win total over 6.5.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want to, lay 14 with them at the snap against your San Diego State Aztecs, or think that Duke was laying too short of a number against them. So and to be fair, listing off those results, I think I've had a pretty fair read on this. This has kind of become our faux college football team.
Sure. I was right a couple times as well,
though,
on the Boston College one.
Trip, of course.
There were a few. So we've gone back and forth with this. So, we're watching way too much Cal football this year.
First off, the lesson. Second, I'm just pushing back on the accusation. I don't like this team. Okay. I do like them a lot. I just think the market got a little high on them at times.
I need 2 more wins.
So the question now becomes, as you look at it, it's somewhat similar to the Boston College spot. You play at home against a team like, my brain is melting together. Last time I saw North Carolina. I was about to say Duke. You play at home against North Carolina. You barely get by as a big favorite. Now you got to make the trip across the country to go take on Virginia Tech. It seems somewhat similar, right, to the BC spot in that is the market just over accounting for the long trip for Cal?
I think a little bit.
You did play this is a Saturday game, correct, or is this a Friday?
This is Friday.
Okay, so it's not like a rest disadvantage. It's just a week. You played last Friday. You're playing again here. I don't know. I would assume that you're kind of leaning in the direction of looking at Cal here in this spot, are you not?
Yes, Circa is the only place I see on the board with 6, but yeah. I like getting 6 with the Cal Golden Bears in this spot. But I'm curious if that's where this finishes, or if 5.5 is kind of ends up being the consensus number. If we keep climbing, because you just think, okay, Cal almost lost to North Carolina at home. Yeah. Oh, give me Virginia Tech at home with the cross country trip. I could see that mentality coming when the public jumps in come Thursday or Friday, that maybe you'll get an even better number on
You
Cal.
do wonder if potentially maybe there is some news or whatever that we're missing, because if the line history is accurate, it went from 4.5 to 6 here at Circa for the line. So and maybe they just took a bet, whatever it is, moved it up 1.5 to that 6. But either way, I'm with you in that I think we proved that this Cal team, now granted, they need to come back to win the game outright, but still, they were catching 6.5 and inside of the number the whole time against BC. I don't think I'm too worried about this team having made this trip, at least in terms of the distance already this year.
And this is, again, for that win total I'm talking about that I'm sweating out for the season. This is an important one for it because you have Virginia and Louisville the next couple weeks. You end the season with SMU. You need to beat Virginia Tech and Stanford to get over 6.5.
And if you look at the two sides, I mean, there is clearly a statistical advantage for Cal defensively. I mean, against the pass in terms of expected points added, they're 23rd in the country. They've been great on early downs, 38th in the country, according to Game on Paper. Tied for 23rd and third down success rate on defense. 31st. Tied for 23rd there. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at this and say, and at the end of the day, I think Cal is the slightly better team. I think the question becomes these matchups of weakness on weakness. Statistically, as much as we love Jaren Sangapulutele, this offense has been pretty mundane in terms of its efficiency, but this is also one of the worst defenses in the country that they're facing in Virginia Tech.
Okay, my San Diego State Aztecs.
How are we feeling?
They are rested. They are ready to go. The last two times we saw them, albeit against bad teams, they put up more than 40 points. Can their offense produce again against Fresno State? We have seen a slight move in their favor, although once you get over that 3 and you creep at the 3.5, then there's the buyback on the other side. So 3 seems to be that prevailing number right now against Fresno State, who, yes, also well rested, but the last time we saw them was losing to that Colorado State team we just saw. What do you think of this one? I like laying the 3, even with SDSU being on the road.
It's hard not to be on that side, I think. I mean, first off, it's like you said, it's hard getting that taste out of your mouth when you looked at what a Colorado State team that's falling apart at the seams did to them 2 weeks ago.
Barely beat Nevada, a team that SDSU just cranked.
It's a weird thing to say. But either way, yes, I would agree with you that SDSU did beat Nevada handily. Either way, I think to me, it's more about San Diego State defensively has been way better than I thought. It's almost like old school San Diego State.
Well, they brought back just about everybody.
Yeah, and they've really stepped it up. I mean, by the metrics, the worst that they rank in terms of some of the categories you track is just average third down distance on defense. And everything else, they're the third best team in terms of third down success rate on defense in the country. Not even just the Mountain West, in the country by that measure. Early down, EPA per play on defense. They're the 10th best team in the country on defense. This unit's been great. And you look at Fresno State, and I think one of the things that is a problem for them outside of the defense as a whole, the offense has been pretty mundane, pretty average. And now you got to take on a defense that's been one of the best in the country. I don't know, man. I'm kind of with you here. You look at this, and I really like what the San Diego State team brings to the table. And their offense, as inconsistent as it has been, especially through the air, well, guess what? You're taking on the 100-ranked pass defense in the country.
I think this is going to be a best bet for me this week. I think I'm going to throw it in. Contest, do your thing. Yeah. One more before we head out here.
I'll make sure to be on track and getting those on time and talking about them.
BYU coming off is this the too obvious a letdown spot almost at Iowa State this week?
I mean, it seems like it. I know situationally, I think a lot of people would probably come in and be like, off the Holy War, yeah, let's go. I guess it is somewhat telling that it's not at 3, it's at 2.5, but I'm with you. I think BYU's good, though. You were high on this team before the season started.
I think BYU's really good. I actually was going to throw at you a BYU to make the Big 12 title game or to win the Big 12 type of a number thing. I think they're for real. It's funny, though, we talk about the emotional letdown. Because I'm on the Utah-Colorado game this Saturday for ESPN, we had our meetings with Kyle Whittingham earlier this morning, and he was saying how much he's been trying to fight with the Big 12 to have that game be a rivalry week game at the end of the season like we see so many other programs. And he's like, they won't do it. Yeah. But because of the emotional portion of it and the magnitude of that game in their state, that's what they would fight for. Yeah. All right, we got to step aside. We are wrapping things up with our final best bets of the day. Next, stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Something good just happened to you, so you have to share.
I mean, we're over in the Liverpool game.
There we go.
Yeah. So 4-1 right now, and we're still in the first half. The 45th minute, in that matchup.
Why can't all bets be like that?
Some German team.
Just some German team?
I'm not going to try to give it a
Come
shot.
on.
Hold on. Let me pull it up and I'll tell you. Bloviate for
I
a
need
quick
some
second.
pronunciations here, especially after you just so beautifully and eloquently ripped off Jaron Cave Sangapula-Tele. You have that down to a T at this point.
That hard. That name's not that hard.
See,
you made it out to be harder
I
than it is.
disagree that it's obvious now because we've heard it so much and we've said it so much.
Okay.
The first time you look at it, it's not easy.
Liverpool is taking on Eintracht Frankfurt.
Ooh. I like it.
Yeah, Eintracht. Eintracht. You have to be like kind of about that.
There was when I worked for the Mountain West Conference, I covered all of the conference sports, right? And so there was a women's golf player who was German. And I'll never forget her name because it took me so long to cement it to memory, but it was Gudrun Björkschwindatter.
There we go.
Like, what?
You got that.
It's so hard. But I'll never forget. I don't know. Gudrun, I hope that you're living life well. I don't know where you are in the world right now, but what a name. So good. They're hard. That's a tough language to crack the code on.
Germany's such a beautiful and fluid language. Or German is. Brian checked in, we should say. He said it's time to talk about the West Coast teams. And then we talked about Boston College, UNC, and then Boston College again. I'm in Massachusetts. My dad has BC season tickets. I've heard you talk more about BC today than he has all season. So that's good.
Well, the emphasis was on the Cal side, to be fair.
Of course it was. Let's see. And then not related, Danny, thank you very much. Danny Bromette checked in. Ajax got the red card today, and then 2-0 Chelsea. Yes, keeping track of that one. For once, Chelsea not called for a red card, but it is, I think, I'll have to go back and look at this. I think it's the 6th out of 7th game for Chelsea matches in which somebody has been called for a red card. I think 5 of them have been Chelsea.
Okay. We do have
I like that. Thank you.
one of these days where we have a full slate of NBA and a short slate in the NHL.
Ooh,
so we've got some thoughts on both here as we round out the day. And one game I do want to talk about because I think I'm kind of on the opposite side of a lot of people in hockey on this one.
Oh, it's here. It's time to puck around and find out.
Puck around and find out, baby. We still do need an open for that or a graphic or something. But the Devils today are on the second half of a back-to-back. They won 5-2 at Toronto yesterday. Back home against Minnesota today. They're on their third string goaltender on the second half of a back-to-back. Wilder rested, and I think most people are going to come off of their win on the road against the Rangers and say this is the perfect spot to get plus money on the Minnesota Wild. And we've seen that happen because they were available at plus 120. Now they're plus 105. I'm actually on the other side of this where I think we're getting a discount on the New Jersey Devils at a cheap money line price, minus 125. And that's the way I'm playing it on this side. They have been getting it done on both ends of the ice. Even the backup goaltender today, Nico Dawes, didn't play a lot last year, but did everything you could ask in spot duty a year ago. 6 games, 3-1, 1.60 goals against, .939 save percentage. The Wild, bottom 10 in expected goals per 60 and expected goals against per 60, meaning they're not generating a lot of scoring chances and they're giving them up. Had a meeting like the Miami Dolphins did, right? They had a team meeting prior to their game against the Rangers the other day because things were going so astray for them. And yes, they win that game against New York, but we've seen already to start the season that the Rangers haven't been able to score at home. So I don't know how much I really take from that game. It's the final game of a 5-game road trip for Minnesota as well. Gustafsson in net has not been great. 1-3, .878 save percentage, .381 goals against. And historically, last 3 meetings with the Devils, 0-2-1 with nearly 4 goals against. So I'm going with the Devils at a short money line price. I think even with the situational spot that they're the better team and they're going to win at home.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes.
Makes sense. You make a very strong argument for it. So
Thank
I would
you.
agree with you. What's your other one? Because I have a hockey question for you.
Okay. I don't know if I can answer it because I've been slow playing with a lot of NFL and college football today, but we'll see. I'm also rolling with the Red Wings today, and this is another one where the Sabres are getting a little bit of play. They're a short favorite at home. And Buffalo has been good at home. But Keith Irizarry and I talked about this on Monday, that we kind of think that the Detroit Red Wings are for real. And aside from their blowout loss game 1 against Montreal, they've been great. They've been scoring a ton of goals, finding ways to win. They even won 2 of their last 3 without one of their best players in Lucas Raymond. He's back tonight. Patrick Kane is still out for 1 more, I think. But I don't think this is a coin flip or a situation where the Red Wings should be an underdog. Sabres have been decent 5-on-5, but defensively still bottom 10 in the league. Red Wings offense is far more dangerous scoring. I think Dylan Larkin props are absolutely at play tonight as well. If you want to do anytime goal or over 1.5 points, something along those lines. Yeah, I'm on the Red Wings today as well. -105 on the road in Buffalo.
All right. So the reason why I ask is, or the question that I have, you mentioned the Detroit Red Wings you think are for real. What about Pittsburgh? So they're 5-2-0 now.
It's weird.
The reason why I ask is their preseason point total was 76.5. The adjusted is now 80.5. Shaded to the under like -130. Is this something that is somewhat sustainable where 80 is now accurate, or they're just off to a hot start? They're going to fall apart. As we have discussed, I think with some as well, that Sidney Crosby is going to get traded and that this thing's just, it's a nice start, but it's going to fall apart.
I don't know if totally cookie and milk crumble, fall apart type of thing, but I don't know how sustainable this is. And I honestly, I think I just need to watch more of them, but the offense has been really good. And I'm very surprised with the 5-2 start, to your point. I think I need to dig a little bit deeper. This Thursday, their next game is at the Florida Panthers, and I want to see how they look against that level of competition and kind of go from there.
My initial,
But my initial blush is under 80.5. Is that what you said the point was? That would be my initial thought.
Because, to this point, and you're pretty early, and I keep in mind that I kind of have an idea about how hockey metrics work, but not to the point where I'd be able to read too much into them. They've generated quite a few high danger chances, but everything else, if you look at it, especially like shot share, they're behind in that on even strength. And you wonder if at some point, if you're going to consistently lose out on that battle, letting opponents dominate that shot share, you're not going to be able to consistently generate more high danger chances and win that expected goals battle if you're not getting off just generally more shots than your opponent, I would assume. And that over the course of an 82-game season, that's not going to be something that sustains itself.
And even their last few wins as well, like the Los Angeles Kings are off to a really bad start. I think the San Jose Sharks are going to be a bad team. I'm not particularly high on Vancouver and haven't been for a while. So I also don't know how much stock to put into the competition that they've played to this point.
Okay.
So yeah, all of that pairs up with, I think under 80.5 is a fair thought early with the adjusted total.
See, hockey thoughts.
Hit us with your NBA best bets. Let's go.
Okay. Well, this is probably going to hurt, but here we go. Hornets -4.5 against the Brooklyn Nets today. We talked about this at length. This one is, I think, moved up to about 5.5, the current number right now. I think that's still in that playable range. You can also sit back and wait in-game, find this thing to fall back down and immediately get back into it. But big litmus test for the Hornets, who we think are going to be a little bit improved. And I think this is going to be a spot to go ahead and prove it. A couple of fives out there as well, including Superbook that only charged -109 on the juice out there if you want to go look at there. Heat Magic, this one's the bigger move of the day. Talked about this with Gil and Kelly on a numbers game earlier. Under 217.5. We're down to 215, 215.5. 215.5, I think, is probably right where it should be. Not sure I'd go out and play this now, but it's where we're at with the market as it stands with Miami and Orlando. Look, I think there's going to be a high rate of threes, and I think there's probably a shot that if this goes over, it's going to go over by a pretty decent margin because you have Desmond Bane, who's now part of the Orlando Magic, a team that's desperately trying to improve their offensive showing. I think they're going to start to shoot more threes, and that would lead to some variance from an offensive standpoint. We know Miami's going to shoot some too. So if it goes over, I think it goes over by a wide margin, but I bet under in that matchup. Raptors, +5.5 against the Atlanta Hawks. That's currently all across the board, total 237. 76ers, money line, +120 against the Boston Celtics. This one's moved against me. Jaylen Brown's going to play. Grizzlies, -4.5 against the New Orleans Pelicans. Interesting game. I am very excited to watch. I'm not as high on Memphis as our boy Zach Cohen is, but even with some of the injuries they're experiencing in the front court, you still got Jaren Jackson Jr. here, and I think that you're going to be in a spot to get this done against a Pelicans team that does not have that much going for them at this point right now. So give me the Grizzlies, and then last but not least, Cooper Flagg under 6.5 rebounds, -115 tonight. The thinking here, Stormy, being a couple of things. First off, Mavericks are a really big team. Obviously, you have Derek Lively, you have Anthony Davis. I don't think just generally there's going to be that many rebounds to go around for Flagg. I also think there's going to be quite a few possessions where, in order to supplement for their lack of ball handling, they have Russell, they don't have much else. They're going to put him at point, and so he's going to be playing a little bit farther away from the basket, not having those rebound opportunities. This one's moved quite a bit, too, in terms of the juice, at least. Some spots are at 5.5, heavily shaded to the over. Others are at 6.5, shaded to the under at about a -140 clip or so.
I don't have to bet it now, but should I? Magic to make the play-in, -105.
No, I mean, if you're a believer in Zach Cohen's work, you're betting them to make the playoffs.
Okay, so I should go that. I should go that route.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do it.
Okay, you're going to add it.
Plus 130.
There's.
But is it that significant of a price percentage that I should go playoffs instead? It's plus 130 versus -105.
I think they're a playoff team more than they are a playoff.
All right, I'm doing it.
They're a great defensive team.
All right, that's enough for us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Follow the Money is coming up next. Big day. Sal Pal, Vito's son on the program. Mike Palm will also give a circa betting update, and Steve Weiss talking JVT's favorite, a little Euro soccer.